This video answers the question, how do we write a good risk description? The emphasis here is that clear risk descriptions help manage the right risks. In other words, clear descriptions help us to focus risk assessment, risk management, and risk communication in the areas that have the greatest impact. There are three elements that contribute to good, clear risk descriptions. First is a description of the system, some sort of description of the cause to adverse effect relationship that helps provide boundaries, context for understanding the risk. Second is a description of a causal event or some sort of trigger that will cause the adverse consequences to happen. Third is a statement describing the consequences, preferably with quantitative measures that denote significant loss. Any or all of these elements of the risk description can contain information about uncertainty or probability. Let's look at two brief examples that contain these three elements. The first one, key stakeholders must agree in interface protocol standards before any components can be finalized. If an interface working group is not formed by a specific date, then the delivery schedule will likely be delayed and will likely, point 9, cause cost overruns. The first element is that there's a relationship between interface protocol standards as a requirement before any components can be finalized. The risk trigger is that an interface working group needs to be formed by a specific date in order to maintain their current schedule. The consequences are that if the interface working group is not formed by that date, the schedule will be delayed, and that with some probability there will be cost overrun. The second example, the Mediterranean fly or medfly reproduces quickly and consumes large quantities of crops. If the medfly is introduced into the United States, then it is possible, point 6, that crop outputs would be reduced by more than 80%. In this case, the system cause-effect is that Mediterranean flies consume large quantities of crops and that they reproduce quickly. The trigger is the medfly being introduced into the United States, and the consequence is that with probability 0.6, crop outputs would be reduced by more than 80%. It is evident in both of these examples that they contain these three elements of a good risk description. I would also point out that the way that these descriptions are formed provides some context and boundaries to what kind of assessment will be done, what areas of risk management will be focused on, and what aspects will be communicated of the risks to various stakeholders.